Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Monday morning, September the 20th, and this is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. And we're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. I'm just waking up, having a coffee, and want to continue talking about inner child work from hopeforsurvivors.com. So that's where we left off last week on Friday. So I wanted to finish this up and just kind of, this is some good information. I know I've got a lot out of it myself. I've been looking at it for about 2 weeks now, possibly even a little 2.5 weeks. But it's a great website, and I hope everybody will go and check it out. And, I'm not a professional counselor or therapist. I don't hold any certificates in that area. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my own blog talk shows to get this information out to people that I find helpful in my own journey, as well as think other people might benefit from. And I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and we're just the whole issue surrounding child abuse. It's really it's very sad, is what it is. We spend week after week, month after month, year after year looking at this stuff, and the silence that surrounds abuse is just really something. And I know a lot of people would like to see this whole thing silenced, you know what I mean? Abusers would like to keep everybody silent because they want to continue doing what they're doing. Survivors quite often remain silent because they have to, maybe the abuser is still living, or they just, have so much shame and guilt surrounding the whole abuse that they suffered that they never come forward. And society wants this whole thing silenced because they don't want to deal with it. Nobody wants to look at abuse. It's ugly. It's one of the most horrific things a person can think of, and yet it's happening in homes and around the world, everywhere. And sadly enough, it affects all of us, right? And people think, oh, how could it affect me? Well, it affects your pocketbook because it's coming out of your tax dollars. Around $100 billion every year spent because of child abuse. And so, it is affecting everybody. And the sad thing is that if you're a survivor like myself, it affects you for the rest of your life, in one way or another. Some people worse than others, and some people don't make it. And I'm happy to be here. And I thought, I need to be a voice. Just one more voice to add to all the other voices out there who are speaking out against abuse and who are standing up, and saying, look, I'm a survivor, and I did not deserve what happened to me. That shame certainly doesn't belong to me. And so I don't mind speaking out against abuse and talking about abuse, right, to stop child abuse. But the whole issue is you have to listen at your own discretion because the topics of abuse are very sensitive. And so, if you haven't heard a whole lot about abuse, it could be very, it could trigger you as if you're a survivor, as well as if you haven't experienced abuse, it's just, it's a very sensitive topic. So you have to listen to my shows at your own discretion, because really ultimately we are responsible for what we listen to. And so if you think the topic's going to bother you, just turn the show off. It's no problem. It wouldn't be hurting my feelings at all, right? So, and young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you have someone older, an adult, someone who you trust, like a parent or caregiver, counselor at school, teacher at school, listen to the show with you to make sure it's something that you should be listening to, because I don't know how young the people are these days that are listening to my shows. I'm not sure where the players are and what websites they might be on. So, I just ask that you have permission to listen to my shows and get an adult or someone who's older to listen with you, just in case you have questions and you're not sure where to find the answers, and they can help you decide whether you should be listening. So we'll get right into this topic here, and this is Inner Child Safe Place. It's inner child work called Reparenting Your Inner Child, Creating a Mental Safe Place. And it's from www.hopeforsurvivors.com. And that's www.hope4survivors.com. And I popped the link into the chat room there. Creating a mental safe place. Now, last Friday we left off with creating our protective archetype, like our protective superhero or parent who, creating our own parent that we would have wanted to have, or creating a certain protector who would protect our inner child, right? And we went over through that. It was quite interesting, and just to see what Hope for Us was talking about, because Hope for Us is a survivor, and she's created these websites based on her own story, as well as John Bradshaw's books, Healing the Shame That Binds You, and also Homecoming, championing your inner child, or something like that. Anyway, I haven't read those books, and I'm going to, as soon as I get some extra money. I'm going to actually pick up a copy of each one of those books, because the information is just awesome. But what she's done is she read those books, and then she's talking here about her own story, and then talking about what John Bradshaw and a few other like psychotherapists and whatnot were talking about. So these are I really like these websites, and I think it's very helpful for myself to see this. I had never thought much about my inner child, except for I knew she was there, and I knew she was wounded, and I knew that, but I wasn't sure, how to get in touch with her, or, if I should even try to get in touch with her, or how, besides just try to nurture her in some way, which I had started doing about 4 years ago. So this is very interesting for me, because I can see now, like, how you can actually really work with your inner child or inner children if you have more than one at different stages, right? Whether it's the inner infant child, the inner toddler, the inner preschooler, the inner school age, and the inner adolescent, right? So once you create a protective, person, like whether it's a superhero or a warrior princess or a warrior king or something, or just a parent who you would have liked to have to protect your inner child, you can create a mental safe place. So this is what we're going to be looking at here today, and I haven't really looked over this yet, because I sort of browsed through it last week, but I haven't really read all the way through it, so this will be the first time I'm kind of looking at this too. But it's quite interesting. Creating a mental safe place is, now that you have rescued your inner children from the place in which you were abused with your protective archetype, it is essential to have a safe, comfortable place to put them to reside while the adult you is busy with your day-to-day life. Try to create a mental safe place that is ideal for each of your unique inner children. For your inner infant and toddler, a comfy room or two will probably be sufficient to make them feel safe and comfortable. For older inner children, you may find they prefer a more imaginative domicile with multiple rooms for their various needs. This is one area in which you can use an unlimited imagination to indulge your inner child. Don't be afraid to get creative. Remember that you are creating these homes in your mind, so nothing is outside the realm of possibility. It says create a mental safe place for each inner child. Each inner child will have different preferences at each developmental stage. What feels right for the infant, toddler, or preschooler child may not feel right for the school-age child or inner adolescent. She says, try to remember what interested you and brought you joy as a child at differing developmental stages. And make a list of your special gifts and what did you excel at in school. What sports were you involved in? What activities did you enjoy at summer camp? If you had time to yourself and you were not allowed to watch TV, what were you most inclined to do? She lists off here, listen to music, read, draw. Which of your gifts are stifled by your parents or other critical caregivers? These are parts of your authentic self that you may have forgotten about, so this is why she's bringing this up. So she says, do a meditation to bring out each of your inner children. It says, if you need help coaxing them out into the open, please use the suggestions on the Meet Your Inner Child page. And there's the link there on this page, actually. It says, have paper and pencil or crayons handy, and after you're relaxed and you feel that one of your inner children are present, sit up and do some journaling with them. And title separate pieces of paper with the age of each of your inner children, infant, toddler, preschooler, school age, and adolescent or little teen. Remember, you may not have an inner child that falls neatly within each of these developmental stages, because she talks here about her own story. She says, for example, I only have 3 distinct inner children, a preschooler about the age of 3, a school-age child who is about 10 and angry, protective little teen who is about 13. If it's easier for you, title each page with the name of each of your inner children or your inner child has told you they prefer. So ask your inner child what they would like to do and what preferences they have, and write each question using your adult dominant hand. Answer each question using your non-dominant hand from your inner child's perspective. So that's what she was talking about last week as well on almost everything she does here. When we're journaling, our dominant hand would be the one that we write with. Like if we're left-handed, that'd be the one that we write with, and our inner child would write with our right hand, right? Or just the opposite, right? And she says, let your inner children draw pictures of their preferences if they have trouble describing what it is they are trying to tell you. And here are some examples and possibilities. So she says, your inner infant, for the inner infant safe place, she says your inner infant's needs and desires will be pretty basic. They will choose items for their safe place that are appropriate for their early developmental needs. And here are a few things they might request of the adult you. So they might have for furnishings like a crib, rocking chair, changing table, blankets, clothing. Most infants and toddlers don't have much use for clothing as long as they are dry and warm. A diaper is probably all they will want to wear. Food, she says, as with clothing, infants have few food needs and preferences. Formula is adequate nourishment for an infant. Don't be surprised if you get the feeling your inner infant wants to be breastfed. This might be something you missed out on as an infant. She says your ideal protective archetype can provide this if it feels right to you and your inner infant. So she says, of course, this will have to be the female ideal mother and archetype in order to make sense. Don't overstimulate your inner infant with too many toys. Keep toys simple and basic. So let's say you're thinking about toys that your inner infant might have liked, right? Blocks, some soft stuffed animals, and some teething rings she's got listed here, are plenty to keep your inner infant entertained. Your inner toddler's needs, so she talks about the inner toddler next. She kind of goes through all of them, like saying what kind of furniture, what kind of clothing they might need, food and toys and stuff. Now this is when you're just, if you really want to take the time to get this detailed for your inner child, right? Because it's not the same as DID. I know that, multiple personalities, that's a whole different thing, and she did talk about this here on this website. Inner children are completely different. They're not separate personalities. They're just parts. There's parts of us at points where the abuse happened that we know our inner child was wounded, and if we can actually recognize that, I knew inside of me that I had a young girl who was probably between 6 and 7 years old. That's where my inner child was at, and I could, because I can picture her, right? And that's just myself. I can picture myself at that age, and that's where I was raging, and that's where all the anger and the hurt comes from, that 6, 7-year-old girl inside of me. So that's just my small self at that stage was wounded, and so I knew, because I could feel this inner child inside of me, and I knew that that's the point where I guess I was really extremely hurt. So, you might have an inner toddler self, you might have an inner infant self, inner teenage self, that needs to be comforted and soothed. So this is, just her ideas are, and maybe even some of John Bradshaw's ideas on how to do that. If you wanted to get that technical, where you're picking out the food that they would like, because they would tell you what they wanted to eat and stuff, and just to really allow yourself to connect with this inner child to get their needs met that they didn't get before, right? And for just depending on what age your inner child is, right? And so there might be more than one inner child, because you might have the need to go back and re-nurture these inner children at these different stages. But they're not really separate personalities like DID, where a separate personality, which is, there could be more than one, would actually take over while you disappear in the back somewhere. And then this other personality even has another name and talks for themselves. They literally are separate personalities. And then the other person comes back on and really has no idea what the other person has said, right? Sometimes they might know if they were able to pay attention enough or whatever, but I know people with the idea, and that's a whole different thing than inner children, right? Because I know my inner child is not a separate personality from myself. It sits in there, and it's a point where I was wounded, and it actually started, my inner child sits at a point where before a lot of the physical abuse started, there was already some physical abuse when I was 6 or 7, but the really harsh stuff was after that. But I think my inner child was not getting the nurturing she was needing, and the support and the love and care at that age, 6, 7 years old. And so I think that's where she really felt very hurt, you know what I mean? And then later, after that, maybe she just shut down, because I don't seem to have any other inner children. I think I just kind of shut down at that point, and that's where, the worst of it actually happened after that. So maybe there are more inner children in there. I'm just not aware of them, see? So we're supposed to kind of take a look and see if we can coax them out, and if we have more than one. But I don't know if I'd get so if I myself would bother to pick out furnishings and clothing. I was really thinking I like the idea of having a protective archetype standing over, or near my inner child to protect her, but that would be, for me, would be more like a like a nurturing parent, like a nurturing mother, or the mother that I really wish that I would have had would have probably would work for me, or for the parents that I wish I would have had. So, but everybody's different, right? So you might want to pick a like she was saying, like a superhero type protective archetype to actually stand over and protect your children. And everybody's different, right? So we all have different needs, and what would work for one person just wouldn't work for another, and that's why. But I just find this very interesting that they've actually done this work with inner children, because I had no idea really that there was that much information really on it. I had never searched it out, never really looked into it. And so, this is quite interesting for me. But we can pick out their furnishings, clothing, what type of house they're going to want to live in, if they want just a couple of rooms, or if they want a big, huge mansion to run around in as young adults, right? Like teenagers. If we have a teenager who's in there and an inner child needs more room, like some sort of a cool place for them to hang out. Just depending on what needs were not met when you were as you were growing up in the different stages, right? And so, or what makes what you believe would make your inner child happy. So I think that's really what they're doing here. They're just giving some suggestions on what would make our inner child happy, and comfortable, right, with furnishings and clothing and stuff like that. And so it is quite interesting. I got some great friends in the chat room here this morning. Hello, good morning. And so yes, it is interesting for sure to look at this stuff. For the toddler safe place, she says, your inner toddler's needs and desires will be pretty basic as well. They will probably ask for more toys and playthings than what felt appropriate for the inner infant. And here are a few things they might request of the adult you. So furnishings: crib or toddler bed, rocking chair, changing table, blankets, pillows, toy box, child-sized table and chairs. Most toddlers don't have much use for clothing, she says, so as long as they are dry and warm, a diaper will probably do. However, you may want to have some blanket sleepers and simple clothing available for them. Include shoes and warm outerwear so that your toddler can venture outside if they want. I think that's funny. Unlike infants, toddlers' food needs are the building blocks for a healthy appetite. Make sure they have lots of healthy options available, like milk, fruit, juice, water, cereal. They can pick up with their fingers, like fruits, cooked vegetables, and meats, right? It's quite interesting. Toys and stuff. She says, make sure you have a play area set up for your inner toddler. This can be a separate room or dedicated area within the bedroom. Make sure soft, safe toys are easily accessible to your curious toddler. Do not be surprised to find that your inner toddler desires items that are not available to you at that age, that were not available to you at that age. For instance, your inner toddler might want to play some of the latest computer learning games or leapfrog tools. And, like, that stuff wasn't around when I was a kid, so that's what she's talking about. It's okay to provide for these types of activities in your mental safe place, but keep them safely out of reach. You can make arrangements to have your protective archetype supervise these types of activities. So be sure you provide lots of colorful crayons, coloring books, paper for your inner toddler. You might also want to include a child-sized easel with a chalkboard and colorful chalk. These are just some cool ideas. Preschool safe place. Your inner preschooler's needs and desires will be more complex than that of your inner toddler. They will probably ask you for quite a few toys and playthings, and here are a few things they might request of you. So bed, dresser, blankets, pillows, toy box, child-sized table and chairs, computer, sleeping bag. Unlike toddlers and infants, your inner preschooler may have distinct preferences for clothing. Include shoes and warm outerwear so your preschooler can venture outside if they want. Like toddlers, preschoolers' food needs are the building blocks for healthy appetite, so make sure you have lots of healthy options for them, like milk, fruit juice, water, cereal, crackers, fruits, and vegetables, meats, and all this. And she says some preschooler favorites might include mac and cheese, grilled cheese sandwiches, pizza, spaghetti. Make sure you have a play area set up for your preschooler. This can be a separate room or dedicated area, and have some safe toys around. She says don't be surprised to find that your inner preschooler desires items that were not available to you. So she's talking about the same thing here, like the latest computer games and things like that, video games. She says It's during this stage that make-believe and pretend are an important part of a child's development. Be sure to provide costumes and props for dress up and play. And pets. If it's at this stage that your inner child may request a pet to care for and keep them company. This is one area where I believe it's perfectly fine to indulge your inner child. Did you always want a pony growing up? Go ahead and provide one for your inner preschooler. Yeah, because we can use our imagination, see, whatever we want. And go ahead and provide one for your inner preschooler. Has a beloved pet long since passed away. Bring that pet back for your inner child to love and care for. The limitations of reality are not a problem for your inner child's safe place. Yeah, because this is a place we're creating within our own mind, within our own imagination, and so it's limitless. Really, what you can do to if you really want to get into this, you can just kind of go all out, right? So it's pretty cool. School-age safe place. Your inner school-age child's needs and desires will be even more complex than your inner preschooler. They may ask you for many toys and some pretty sophisticated things that may not have been available to you. Housing, for the first time, your inner child might be opinionated about the actual construction of their safe place. You may need to create an entire house complete with a yard and play set for them. They might not be interested in a traditional house. Don't be afraid to indulge your inner school-age child by building a fort, castle, tree house, or other dream place. Your inner school-age child might want to reside in a place that does not exist in reality. They might feel safer inside like a dorm-like setting at Hogwarts like from the Harry Potter series. They may be attracted to current-day movie sets, or you may find they're longing to reside from within a setting from a story, TV show, or movies from your past. They might want separate rooms for various activities, and a large castle can accommodate a private theater, bowling alley, basketball court, swimming pool, etc. So that's really going all out. Furnishings: bed, dresser, blankets, pillows, toy box, computer table, computer, video games, and TV, sleeping bag, bookshelves, and all this stuff, right? Your inner school-age child will most likely have clear preferences for clothing. Include anything that makes them feel comfortable. Be sure to include shoes and warm outerwear so that your school-age child can go outside when they want. Make sure to have lots of healthy options available to them, but don't be afraid to indulge them a bit with cookies and candy, etc. Says if you grew up without many luxuries, your inner child may resent and distrust you if you refuse to provide them with a few special snacks and treats. So, yeah, well, this is the thing, right? And it depends on what you sort of lacked and sort of missed out on, right? And that's what I think, we're in our own mind, in our own safe place, we can create this for our inner child, right? And so, just depending on how detailed you want to get. I mean, you can get right down into all of this stuff: the food, the toys, the clothing, the furnishings. I just find it very interesting. For toys, just make sure you have a play area set up for your inner school-age child. This could be a separate building, room, or a dedicated area within a bedroom. For the first time, your inner child will be able to read. Make sure you have a variety of books and games in addition to toys that are available to your school-age child. You can mentally bring back childhood friends or allow your inner protective archetype to play sports and games with your inner child. It says, do not be surprised to find that your inner school-age child desires items that were not available to you at that age. For instance, your inner child might want to play some of the latest computer or video games. It's okay to provide these types of activities. Be sure that games, movies, and TV programs you make available are age appropriate for the maturity level of your inner child. Well, I guess we're supposed to be protecting our inner child, so that's just it, right? The whole idea is to protect our inner child, and that's what I guess that's why she mentioned that. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And then the inner adolescent little teen safe place. Oh, this one she says that they will most likely be very adamant and specific about what they require and expect, right? Teenagers and young inner adolescents, right? Here are a few things they might require of the adult you. Furnishings. In addition to the basic furnishings, your inner teen will probably want a very specific decor for their surroundings, so indulge. Yeah, I think this one would be really cool to do. During this developmental stage, kids can be very particular about what they wear. Your inner adolescent will be no different. When doing the meditation, ask your little teen to be specific about where their clothes should be purchased. And make healthy choices as well as for food. Make healthy choices as well as some indulgent snacks. And They may also be interested in cooking and baking at this stage. Make kitchen appliances available if that's a desire for your inner teen. Your protective architect can supervise, or you can conjure up a famous chef to give you your inner adolescent some cooking tips. Really, it's just limited to your imagination. All of this stuff, right? I mean, if we wanted to create this safe place for our inner child, we could. It's limitless, really. It's just limited. We're just limited by our imagination. So whatever you can think of that would help your inner child to feel better, that's what we would do. And so it's really quite interesting, I think. I'm not sure if I'm going to get that detailed and that technical about it, just because I don't feel the need to, but somebody else might. And so this is why this information is very helpful. Somebody else might really, really be into this and have, feel the need to do it. And so that's cool. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. And she says here, your little teen for miscellaneous may not want toys per se, but they will probably want some items to keep them entertained. Continue to make games and team sports available along with anything else your adolescent has an interest in or passion for. Like, for instance, did you miss out on learning to dance or play a musical instrument as a kid? Go ahead and make these available to your inner teen now. Indulge your inner adolescent in any personal care items they may help them feel good or about themselves. Stuff that they might have missed out on. Like if you have an inner teen that missed out on certain things, this is the point where we could make sure it happened, right? And so that's the creating a safe place for your inner child. So that's pretty cool. And you could really, it's limited only by your imagination as far as creating these safe places, right? So we just have to go back and find out what our inner child really wants, and then we can work on getting all that stuff. I'm just looking in the chat room, and I have a comment here: punching bags and glass smashing area. I like that. That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. Dartboards and things like that. Things that maybe, for sure you would not have had as a child, right? A glass smashing area. That's really quite interesting. Yeah, it is very, very cool. I know, if you weren't allowed to play outside as a child, I think, so many children are not allowed to play, period, and I know this, and they don't get to play and have fun, and you could always, set up a play area and have, some playmates come over, and, if you were not allowed to be involved in any sports or activities like that as a child, you could be on a sports team, you could play whatever you wanted to play, football or soccer, baseball, whatever you wanted to do, right? It's really, really cool. If you weren't allowed to have cookies as a child, you could have cookies. You could be sensible about it, right? But this is the whole thing. It's kind of limited to your imagination, right? So it's really, really cool. I like this website, and I think this is. I don't know. I'll take a look around and we'll see if there's any more left of this we haven't gone over as far as the inner child work goes on this website here. But I think that we've pretty much covered most of it. We did, healing the wounds of childhood, validation, apologies, and forgiveness. I'll just take a look through here for tomorrow and see if there's anything else. And otherwise, we're going to move on. But this is a great website. It's www.hope4survivors.com. And that's hope for the number 4 survivors.com. And you can check it out for yourself and read about her story, Hope for Us, and read about, the healing and inspiration that she's got there. We'll take a look around and see if there's more stuff from here we can talk about tomorrow, and then otherwise we'll move on. But we got about a minute left. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. Tonight we have Annie Jacoby and her assistant, Jake, coming on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She's a personal safety expert, Annie Jacoby, and that's www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers. And she is a survivor of domestic violence. She has many years as a certified advocate. She is a personal safety expert, and she's going to come on and talk to mainly women, but just anyone, how to keep yourself safe using your own body as a weapon, right? So it's not martial arts; it's just using your own body and your own mind to keep you safe. You know what I mean? So we're going to be on there with Elizabeth Brawley and myself and Annie Jacoby. I hope you don't miss that show. It's going to be great. And then I'll be back on with my show after that, 9:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then tomorrow morning we'll be back here for One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. So take care, everybody. Have a really awesome day. If you need something, get a hold of me here on Blog Talk Radio or Facebook or wherever. If I can find any resources for you, let me know. And otherwise, check out Dreamcatchers for Abused Children website at www.dreamcatchersforabused.children.com. And make sure you take care of yourselves. Keep reaching out. Keep looking for that hope and that wherever you can find it and that help, right? You certainly deserve to have a good life, and you don't deserve to suffer. So make sure you do reach out and talk to somebody, okay? Even if it's a crisis line, call somebody, okay? We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.